What is the best way today to play games from the past? For some people, the answer is the Mr. FPGA project. But what is it about this device that makes it different from things that came before? Let's have a look at how the technology has evolved and where do we stand today. Once upon a time, shortly after the invention of color television, somebody thought it would be a good idea to connect a machine to a TV to create interactive games. This is the story of a 40-year-old journey into the latest trends of playing classic games. Since the early days, interactive games was an idea that caught on pretty quickly. And as companies tried new things, the format for video games became pretty standard. You will need to have a machine connected to a TV, a cartridge that could be swapped to change games, and controllers for players. The early consoles used the television standards of the time. First came the very limited radio frequency, which forced you to use a specific channel on the TV and did not have very good quality. Slowly, it was replaced by a much more convenient composite video signal, which today is recognizable by its yellow plug. The composite signal, however, loses information and therefore cannot render color faithfully. It was often all that a console could support natively. A much better standard had been in use in arcades and computers for some time. It was called RGB because it provided red, green and blue components separately. This was and still is some of the best possible and most faithful video output that any device can provide, because color information is fully preserved. As a result, a small community started to grow around consoles to modify them and output the best possible video signal. As people learned to modify systems, it became possible for several systems to output the same RGB standard and get the best picture possible. But these enhancements often require some kind of modification or additional hardware inside the original consoles. A few decades later, television started to evolve and change from analog video into video that was purely digital. This provided much higher image fidelity, a much larger image resolution, but required to use a new digital video standard. HDMI rose into prominence as the new king of video. This created a need to convert the old signals, either composite, RGB or other, into this new digital world. Enthusiasts started to use several devices known as upscalers that could convert in one way or the other the analog video into digital, and at the same time increase the resolution to best fit the newer TVs. There were many iterations and flavors of upscalers, but two in particular became renowned for their high quality and their high price. The XRGB FrameMeister, now discontinued, and the open source Scan Converter. Both of these machines use special hardware, known as FPGA chips, that were extremely good at processing video signals in real time. FPGA means Field Programmable Gate Arrays, which means that they can be reconfigured based on a firmware update after they were originally released from the factory. It may sound strange today that such devices will be needed at all, but the fact of the matter is that the old video signals fell out of fashion with TV manufacturers. To save money, they began to either remove input times completely, or to use cheap components to perform a mediocre upscaling. Using an upscaler gives you back the control of the process, and you can use the best quality that you want with the improvements that you want. Separately, as a parallel development, inspired from the flexibility of computers with removable media, started to appear devices that could store games in flash media, such as SD cards. Cartridges contain more than just data, however. They often had special chips that enhanced the abilities of the console. For example, by adding better math for simple 3D games. This means that to be fully compatible with all the library of a given console, a flash card needs to also replicate the circuits inside the special cartridges. This replication in turn has to be fully compatible with the electronics of the console without any added latency. Again, the perfect technology for this was FPGA chips. Today, there is an array of flash cartridges built around FPGA technology, which not only provide the same logic as original cards, but also sometimes enhance the abilities of the console. For example, it's now possible to integrate the ability to run CD games from a cartridge, something that was not even possible from official hardware back in the day. As FPGA technology matured and more powerful and larger chips became available, the next step has become to replace the original console itself by an FPGA replication. There are many advantages to do this. In particular, it solves the problem of supply of the original consoles. As an added step, it also becomes possible to integrate some of these external upgrades into the same FPGA chip. You could either combine the upscaler and FGB upgrades into a machine that can receive the original cartridges, or a flash card as an external device. Everything else will be contained in an FPGA. The other flavor that appeared was to combine the flash card and the RGB upgrades into a machine that could still be used with original CRT TVs via RGB, or to feed into an external upscaler for HDMI. These were separate products that provided these combinations in different ways. As FPGA sizes grew even further, a device appeared that combined everything: the flash card, the RGB upgrade, and the upscaler, all put together into a single chip. In addition, they can interface easily with original controllers and use newer, modern USB controllers if desired. And this is where we are today. Effectively, the whole classic video game console has been recreated to an extremely high level of fidelity inside a single FPGA chip. The way it's done means that it can be made to work at the same time with original CRT, RGB displays, and modern HDMI devices. In the end, it gives you full control to you, the end user, about what options you want to use. This, in essence, is what the Mr. FPGA is. For full disclosure, I have paid every item shown in this video from my own pocket. Mister is actually an open source project, and if you would like more information about how to get one, you can check the link in the description for the Mister forums. The platform is still growing, but that is a story for another time.